I apologize, it appears we're having technical difficulty.
You go ahead.
Okay.
The first item on the agenda is a variance for 112 Myra Lane. We'll have the staff report, please.
Yes, so this is a variance request for 112 Myra Lane, and the request is for an encroachment to the front setback. The property owner is requesting a variance to that front setback regulation that states any structure must be at least set back at least 20 feet from the property line in order to construct a carport in the front of the house. Staff recommends denial of this variance to allow the encroachment within the established building line, finding that it does not meet the criteria that we must consider variances with. The property is located on a street with a continuous 20-foot established setback, and the erection of the carport within the front setback would diminish the open space, which is, of course, the intent of front setbacks. Furthermore, the building line along Myra Lane is uninterrupted and is established at 20 feet. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Question?
I do have one question for you. The distance from the side of the house to the side lot line that the building line over there, is there enough space to potentially put like a drive so the carport could be like on the rear of the house or kind of in the back corner, or?
So I believe
I was
so.
trying
If
to
you
get
look
your
at this photograph, I believe there's approximately 10 feet on either side. Unfortunately, this development is so new that our aerial photographs do not capture all of the structures out there on Myra Lane, and there wasn't a survey showing the dimensions of the lot versus in the house and improvements on that lot. So we don't really have quite enough information to make that call, but if you look at the picture, you can tell that the house is set back, of course, the 20 foot, and you can judge that distance from what the fence line looks like. And I would believe that there is enough to do a single driveway back to behind the house where then a structure could be erected.
Thank you.
And then this is a photograph of the established building line. And then farther to the west, the lots are not yet developed. So it is a very new neighborhood without any encroachments.
Any other questions? At this time, I'd like to open a public hearing on this agenda item. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the commission during the public hearing? Yes, sir. Would you please come up to the microphone and just give us your name and address, please?
Name is Michael Lee Duran. I am a resident there, 108 Myra Lane. And we just recently got our house there, about a year ago. Now, this is my first time doing any of this, so you guys excuse me.
Oh, don't worry about it. Just relax,
I'm still
relax.
understanding everything myself. From my understanding, so from the property, from the edge of the city, 20 feet back, so our driveway would be beside our house, right? That's what was just said right now, I believe. I think one time they denied us because they're saying that, like, our sewer lines and our electricity lines run alongside our house. So we would still be denied for that reason, that we couldn't build a carport there. Is that true or false?
I think my understanding would be that it would be, there might be utility easements along the sides of the house, but then the
Yes.
question would be, is there enough space between the side of the house and that utility easement to be able to construct it? And so if there's not,
There's
That's valid.
roughly about 12 feet on both sides of the house.
okay, total possibly including an
Yes,
easement? Okay,
the house to the fence line.
okay.
Well,
Okay.
I'm looking at the plat, and on the plat, it appears to me that the utility easements are toward the back of the lot lines.
Okay.
What we're actually talking about is what's called the building setback line.
Okay.
That's what the 20 feet is. And it's intended that you don't build a structure closer than 20 feet to the front of the lot.
Okay.
But your
So-
utility easements, I believe, are all at the back of your lot line. It looks like a 5-foot utility easement along the back sides.
Okay, like I said, I'm just new understanding this.
Oh,
So,
no problem. Don't worry about it.
So, from what we're talking about, you guys are talking about So right there where she has her current carport, she wouldn't be able to build a structure just over the slab itself?
Correct. She would need a variance, that's what she's asking for here, a variance from
ma'am.
the 20-foot building setback line to
Could-
be able to actually build a structure that was permanent.
Yes, ma'am.
I believe right now it looks like there's a I guess it's a,
Yes, ma'am. Since me growing up, of course, I always wanted to own a house and stuff like that. Now they're giving me the chance to. But at the same time, I work on my own vehicles, I do my own vehicles, and, I would just like to be able to enjoy my front yard as much as I do the rest of my house.
I
Now, it's
can
kind of
understand.
like really difficult. They give us a tree to grow with, but they plan on that tree giving us the shade. It's going to take roughly 30 years before that tree gets big enough, and, I'm going to be kind of old. I just kind of wanted, my dream was just to have a carport up front, not enclosed or nothing, not a garage, just something to shade us. And, I kind of, just on the slab part, and I didn't really see that would hurt anything to the city. And I still don't understand why it does. Like building it further back on the side of the house versus putting it in the front. Like, I don't know the dangers, I don't know stuff like that. I don't know if I'm explaining myself correctly.
no, you're fine. I mean, I take it, you're saying basically that you might be interested in doing the same thing.
Oh, I've been wanting to do it. It's just like she's like a step ahead of us. We're the second house built after hers.
Okay,
And, we talk back and forth. She speaks mainly Spanish, and, we communicate with her. But between the both of us, it's like she's always a step ahead of us. Like my backyard, I'm still working on my backyard to get grass back there.
let me ask you this, in terms of your neighborhood, have the other people who have homes there discussed this idea and had an interest in doing something like this, or?
We all necessarily would, and being that a couple of neighbors down, they have like, in my opinion, nicer vehicles. Like me and my wife are still older vehicles, but the thing about the sun is just it's harming our vehicles. We're chipping paint, and it's like there's no shade we could do. My next step was to do exactly what she's doing and put like a larger carport up front, and just to protect us from the heat and the bad weather upon exiting our house. And that would be my whole main reason to having a carport. And of course, enjoy our front yard some more. Heck, I was planning for Halloween with the carport, put some plastic hanging around, like a little haunted house going through there kind of stuff. But yes, mainly it's just vehicle and enjoyment, because we're peeling paint over here. It's hot. I can't wash my own car because it's extremely hot, you know. If my wife and my little girl gets dressed, they're gonna have to worry about the rain if it's raining. I would just like an easy exit out to the front, protect ourselves, protect the vehicles, and be able to maintenance my own vehicle without waiting till the evening. And that's kind of, I wanted to be here to support her, and I'm not sure where she's at right now, Teresa, and that's really my main reason. Then upon growing up, I just wanted my own little area. I told my wife she could have the house as long as I had the garage area or carport area.
Let me ask you this, and I guess just from a standpoint, a development standpoint, if we were to grant this variance, everyone else who's in the neighborhood who would want to do the same thing is going to have to come and go through the same process.
I understand.
If in fact it's something that the neighborhood really wants to do and wants to do in an orderly fashion, I drove through the neighborhood today,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
it's a nice laid out, planned area.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that the concern might be that construction would become haphazard, and things would look different.
ma'am.
Everybody would do something different. If as a neighborhood, y'all could decide on some, I guess what I would call standards for what would be appropriate and what would fit the neighborhood? Is there something that y'all could do along those lines to?
We could get along with the other the rest of the neighborhood, and I'm pretty sure they'll agree with it 100%. And I think the part about the Habitat community, the company, they helped us out. They want us to be different. They want us to have our own home, make it make it
Enjoy your
ours.
home, sure.
Yes, make it ours, make it look like it's our home. And that's kind of one thing that I think will differentiate us, from this house to this house, whether they put the other neighbors put up a carport or not, it's like this house is different, this one's nice, and another one's nice, or this one's nice without it, and I think, I think they'll agree with it 100%. It's just, financially wise for everybody down the road.
Right. People
But-
aren't necessarily in a position right now to do that, sure.
But I would like to in the future to do so, is my thing. And if I had to make it anything, I did plan on in the future, my driveway itself, because it's offset from my front door, I kind of wanted to make it wider and a little bit further back, by like 4 feet, left and on the top side. Therefore, moving away from my plumbing line that runs along the slab itself. So I was planning on making it wider so that way I could, center out my carport. And it'll just blend in nicely, with the front of the house, the way the peak is. And that's the way I envision it. I envision it to be nicely done.
I don't know if this is workable, but, and I haven't reviewed today, I should have before I came, the actual restrictions for your neighborhood in terms of what's you can do and what you can't do, but, if we were to grant this variance for this individual, the thought might be to work with Habitat and come up with some additional restrictions that might address the building of a carport, if in fact a variance is granted for each of them, and just to where you have an orderly,
Yes.
like it is now, nice, and everybody knows what's going to happen, where they're going to be. I don't know if that's possible.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
Yes, if the commission was inclined to approve the variance, but really wanted to make sure that it was in architecturally keeping with the development of the
Correct.
neighborhood, you could place that condition that any encroachment in the front setback would need to be tied into the roof line of the house and in architecturally keeping with the house. So that could be a condition, or alternatively, we can also reach out to Habitat and see if they're interested in submitting a replat for the entire street and going through the variance process to actually reduce the building line on the entire plat for that entire Myra Lane. It's one single plat. And then also working with them about potentially, with that variance, either tying those standards together or working for them to update their deed restrictions. So those are both options.
I mean, to me, I think that's a good direction to go, especially if there's a lot of interest in, keeping the neighborhood, like she's saying, orderly in development, but something that you can do, make your own
Yes, ma'am.
piece of the,
I have a question for Julie. Can you speak to building setbacks? I know that you mentioned there is the open space component, but is there any sort of safety issue with putting structures within the building setback compared to where the road is, or compared to how close structures are, or how,
There's a lot of different options to address that in the building code. So I think if there were any relating to fire or access or things like that, we could address those through the building code requirements.
okay, cool, thank you.
I do like the idea of maybe talking to Habitat and getting something that could be street-wide, something that could be allowable because what if half the neighbors don't like it,
right.
but only 2 or 3 really want
But
it?
work with
So-
all the neighbors to come up with
Right,
some
exactly. I
sort
think
of
that would be a
standard.
fair solution.
That they be open, not be enclosed, because I mean, that
Not,
is,
not
a-
enclosed. I mean,
Enclosed would be- it would make you
design-wise,
feel like-
Yeah.
yeah.
Design wise, I couldn't imagine a closed garage in
Right.
front, so I would think like, an open garage, carport. I mean, the neighborhood just down the road around us, they all have the same similar carports, just something shading their vehicles. If not, they already have big trees there, but, and that's kind of what I wanted as well, do the trimming, do the, shingles and everything to match and flow with the house.
And have
design,
everything
so,
flow.
Yeah.
Right, which makes a lot of sense. Are there any other questions? Thank you, sir, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that'd like to address the commission during the public hearing? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing at this time and open up deliberation.
So I guess we've been discussing putting a condition, would the condition be to the variance, that the variance would need to be, contingent upon having some sort of community-wide?
So that's an option if you wanted to approve this one tonight and not really worry about the rest of the neighborhood. And you wanted it to be architecturally in keeping with the house, then you would put that condition on the variance. And then that recommendation would be sent to city council, and city council would either uphold that or strike the condition or deny the variance.
But it would just be for this one variance?
It would be for just this
But
one
with the
house.
idea that Habitat is approached to perhaps come up with a deed restrictions or amended deed restrictions to address the issue.
Or, yeah, potentially do variances for with the plat.
Right. Yeah, I hate, I don't want to cause a lot more cost or anything in terms of like doing a replat. If they could handle it through amended deed restrictions, that probably would make a whole lot more sense, even though we might have to do a variance each time. That would probably, whatever's the least expense, I would think would be best.
Then the least expensive, I would imagine, would be everyone process their own variance with the condition attached to it.
That it be architecturally
Architecturally
sound.
tied, I would recommend that it be tied into the roof line, and then an architecturally keeping with the support posts being matching anything on the house.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Any other discussion? Do I have a motion?
Motion, what she said.
In other words,
So I don't have to
that we
repeat
approve.
exactly what
We
it
approve
was.
this variance with the condition that whatever is constructed is architecturally sound with
Right.
the current residents. Is there a second?
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
So it's 4 to
4 to
1, I'm
1.
counting. The variance is granted. Thank you. Okay, the second item on the agenda is a variance for Capstone Estates, Phase 3, Section 2, Block 4, Lot 10, replat.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The subject property for the second item on the agenda is at the northeast corner of Christopher Way and Dayspring Drive, and it's addressed as 499 Dayspring Drive. The applicant wishes to replat Lot 10 in this subdivision with the adjacent 4 acres to create one large 5-acre, single-family residential lot. With the replat, we would usually require, as outlined in Section 2158D and Section 2159D, that there is an extension of public utilities. However, the variance is seeking to service water and sewer through a private water well and a private septic system. Staff recommends the approval of this variance to not extend public utilities, finding that an additional water well and septic system would not be necessary, and they could already use the water well and septic system from Lot 10 that has already been approved.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to open a public hearing on this agenda item. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the commission during the public hearing? I don't see anyone, so at this time, I'll close the public hearing and open it up for deliberation by the board. Any questions or comments?
I think it makes perfect sense. The frontage is in the ETJ, the frontage wouldn't require extension of utilities, so that's my thought.
Anybody else? Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the variance to not extend public utilities for the replat.
Second.
Second. Seconded by Mr. Atkinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Variance is adopted. And we're now on the consent agenda. Is there anyone that would like to take an item off the consent agenda? Or does everyone agree everything on the consent agenda is appropriate?
Agreed.
Okay. Other business? Oh, I'm sorry. You have a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
So move to adopt.
Moved by Ms. Hood,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Well, the Development Services Monthly Report.
For the Development Services Monthly Report, this past month, we processed 3 minor plats, 1 major plat, which was the Ranches at Terra Vista Phase 2, and 2 site plans. And the Texian Bookstore variance, which was deliberated on at the last meeting, was passed by, or was approved by City Council. This past month, we received 180 total electrical, mechanical, and plumbing permits, and received over $47,000 in permit fees. This is down from this month last year, that being attributed to people rebuilding after the hurricane last year.
Any questions? Thank you. One item that I didn't mention at the very beginning, Mr. Davis has resigned from the board. He had travel and other obligations. He says he's very sorry, but I guess we have a little opening.
Council will be considering planning commission appointments at their meeting on Tuesday. As you remember, John Hayek's term is also expiring, and so this would have been his last meeting. And I'd also like to take a minute to introduce our city manager, Jesus Garza, who has joined us tonight.
Any other questions or comments?
Did we approve our minutes?
They were part of the consent agenda.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, I take it that we can adjourn the meeting. Thank y'all very much. And thank everyone who's here to testify.